It's been about a week since I've done anything to this boat, and it's just, life gets in the way. I've been back at work, so I've only got evenings after work to work on it. I've gotten pretty lucky so far. I've just been able to cut these precisely enough for a little bit of a press fit. So I'm gonna fire up the welder, tack this side, tack that side, and then weld it off. Figured I'd start wearing a respirator just because I'm doing so much welding. I will obviously take the little flap disc and just sand the top welds flat before I weld the front platform on, and then that installed should add a lot more stiffness still to the hull, and it should pretty much be a rock solid platform going forwards. I welded this to this thin material on the side, and then I took a little triangle of 1/8 inch thick aluminum and just gusseted it back like that, because there's going to be a lot of weight on this if I put a hook in it for winching the boat onto the trailer and stuff like that. And I just want a large amount of this to connect to so it doesn't just crack off. Each one of these individual little pieces that I've welded in up here, when they were just sitting on top, you could push down on them and they had a decent amount of flex, but now they've solidified, like they're a lot stronger. Not entirely sure why, but my theory is that because they're actually connected to each side, they're going to be under tension now. So if you put a string across there and made it really, really tight, it would actually, it would have some strength. And I think that when those are just sitting there, they bend, but once they're welded in, then the one on either side sort of like acts as like a tensioner, and it, like, as it tries to come down and pull the sides in, the other two won't let it, and it sort of ties it all together. So this is actually totally walkable already without even the floor spreading that load. Super lightweight. I'm totally happy with how that turned out, but surprised me. Like, I did not expect it to be like this. I thought I'd have to add some more reinforcement, but it's solid. So you win some. This time I win some. Just an interesting note here. One of these sheets is 4 feet wide and 10 feet long, and the price of that was $105. $105. The place I bought it, you have to buy at least $500 worth of metal. So it's not feasible to just go buy one sheet for $105. But in terms of like, what does the material cost to build a high banker with the leftovers from this project, it's pretty affordable to get aluminum like this to work with. Just food for thought, right? Because a lot of people see, oh, aluminum boat, Mr. Moneybags over there. It's really not that prohibitively expensive, providing you buy the aluminum in bulk from a proper supplier. Well, let's get to it. I guess the next step, I got to cut a sheet of this and weld that into the front. It'll lock everything together, make the boat really quite stiff, because there'll be like a full, it's all just tied together at that point. And then I can go work on the transom, get that outboard mounted, and hopefully be ready to have this thing floating by the time I'm off work. And cool, it worked. I welded all the way around the edge so that I kind of have a waterproof compartment under here. If I want to stuff some camping gear up in here, there'll be plenty of space. Problem is, I've put like 4 pounds of filler wire into this, and I'm completely out. All the welding stores are closed, so if I run out of equipment, or if my argon gets empty again, there's nothing I can do. Luckily, I have a friend that lives about 4 blocks away. He says he's got a pound of filler wire for me, so let's go pick some up. Well, what do we have in here? Oh, look, there's a crest. And you have a pound of 40-43. This will be perfect for what I'm doing. But this should be enough to finish my transom, because I finished the whole front of the boat, but the actual transom itself that's the important part, to get a motor on there. So
yes.
I can go back into the great outdoors where it's raining. So I will hide my camera. There's the good stuff right there. Some 330 seconds, I believe. 40-43 alloy, which will work just fine. Get the lights on, the big lights on. it just reminds me, like having it rain outside, it's so nice to have a big shop like this. I know some people's standards, it's not a big shop, but for me, it's 21 by 23 feet garage with like 8.5 foot ceilings, and oh, such a big step up. I can actually have the boat in here and walk around it, and I mean, it could always be bigger, but this is so nice. This is the height my transom needs to be. I've got this exactly 2 inches out, and that's where I want to basically bend one of these so that it comes down and meets up with this. So to the best of my calculation, I've tilted my saw over at 8 degrees, and I've cut in 8 degrees off this side, and I'm going to cut in 8 degrees off that side so that this can have a little bit more of a bend. So this can also bend up. Okay, let's see. This isn't a tutorial or a do this at home situation, but right here, you don't want your fingers to get sucked into the blade or anywhere close to that blade, especially if the saw kicks or if the workpiece kicks. To me, a circular saw, it looks a lot more dangerous than an angle grinder, but people using angle grinders with this type of blade that can bite, those, I've seen way more people get hurt with those than a circular saw, because it's actually a fairly stable piece of tool, I guess. But when I have my hand here and locked, there's no way that those fingers are going to get sucked underneath, because it's actually, it's just pressed up against it. I'm not putting my hands down into the blade, just in case that's not clear here. So I've got to use my thumb to hold this, which is why my hand gets placed up here, and it's not going anywhere close to that blade. It's locked in and safe no matter where this thing kicks. The saw is going to kick down and away if it does, and it should be good. So I'm basically just doing my best to line this up. This is going to fit in right like that. So I'm going to go set it on the transom and see how that fits. So I'm going to clean out that corner. To do that, I'll take a Sharpie, I'll draw, sort of scribe this over to where I need that to be, and then nip that out. Then we'll go do the exact same thing on the far side. Whoa. You know, I really wish there was a power tool for this. Like, for example, a circular saw, but right halfway through trimming, not even a heavy cut, it just stopped working. It was doing a thing where I was holding the trigger and it was sort of turn on and off and on again a few times. So it's not overheated. It's not my battery. I've tried a few different batteries in it. Fully charged. So I bought this less than 30 days ago from the Home Depot, and the only problem is they're closed now. It's a little bit too late, and I can't go there tomorrow because I'm at work from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. So a little bit of a delay because of that. So I'm trying to use the hacksaw so I can get this thing tacked into place tonight. But there you go, Rigid. You let me down this time. Other than that, great tools. All right, I got sick of trying to use that hacksaw. So I've sort of got the angle of the blade eyeballed into the correct spot here. See how that looks. The idea being where this edge lines up here, if I put another piece coming from here to here, sheet it with this, it'll be just a beautiful piece as well as really nice and strong. Well, it's super awkward, but the key is so long as you can anchor against something with each hand, you can kind of make it work. Yeah, it is good and proper dark. This is why I'm a bad YouTuber, guys. I try, but with work and everything else, I just can't put the time into filming and working all the time. But pretty soon we'll be out in the river. We'll be out gold mining. I promise we'll get away from Kyle's fabricating channel and back to gold mining. Are you worried Don't worry, this is not becoming a unboxing and tool review channel. This is why I'm not starting an unboxing channel. I'm not very good at taking things out of boxes. All right. Comes the blade. Comes the target. Hey! Now there's a saw on the table. Pretty cool. It has a little rail at the top here so you can put a truss hook. I started my whole boat building career, not as a boat builder, but as a framer building houses. And when you combine the Octane tool with the Octane battery, that's where you actually get that additional performance, where you really can do everything you can do with a corded tool, just without having to deal with those annoying cords. So let's see. Does it start? Hey, great. I can get back to building the boat now. The outboard is just going to set down onto here. Whenever you're working with a suspended load, like, don't stick your hand in that gap, if something goes wrong. Right now, this pulley system is a 4-to-1 setup. So I'm pulling down on this. And if I pull down on this with 100 pounds, it actually goes around the top pulley and then down around here. And each one of these ropes is supposedly, in a perfect world, would also have 400 pounds on it. So 100 pounds of force here equals 400 pounds of lift. In reality, it's not actually that simple, because these pulleys are only about 90% efficient. And so the first pull might be 100 pounds, and then the first rope to come down is going to be 90, and then the next one to go up is going to be 80, and the next one to come down is 70, or you know what I mean. So you don't have a perfect mechanical advantage. This prusik is placed on the first rope to come back up, and it basically holds this whole thing still. I bring this up, and as I put weight onto the system, the prusik loosens, and as it hits the pulley itself, it presses against the pulley and just keeps moving. But then as it goes up, it bites tight again. So if I pull it up here and then pull down on it, then it just lowers and lowers and lowers and lowers and lowers. Let it catch itself so that I can reset this little thing here. All this thing is it's got some little grippy pieces, and then it locks onto the rope, and it just makes it a lot easier than trying to pull this by hand. So we're just about sitting on the back. First we lift up, loosen the prusik, hold the prusik as we come down. So now some of the weight's sitting on the boat itself, and I guess at this point I'm going to use some clamps to clamp this on, just so we can see exactly where it is. And then we're going to come down and we're going to have a look at how that shoe lines up with that. At this point, it's looking a little high, but I think once I trim in, that'll come down nicely. So let's trim this thing down and see if my welding has worked. Oh, hang on. It's lifting the boat as I come down, meaning I need to release more tension off of this first. Make sure that this keeps slack. Okay, so it looks to me like my transom, as we sit, is too high. This is one of those situations where math happened and then didn't happen. But basically what we got is we're going to come down here. We're going to have a quick peek. And that right there, let me see if I can get the camera just a touch lower for you. You'll see that I'm above quite a bit where I need to be, which means that my measurement was off. All right, so I've measured, and it turns out that my outboard needs to sit a full 1.5 inches lower than what I have it as. So this needs to be lowered 1.5 inches. I still haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do that. But where did my math go wrong? How did I get that so wrong? Here's the solution to that. Basically, off of this was the metal of the original boat, and then there was a wooden piece that came up, and that came up, I think it was 5 inches. So I figured, okay, I'm building a tunnel, and that tunnel is coming up 2.5 inches from the bottom of the boat. So I need to take this existing transom, since I'm putting this tunnel that comes up 2.5 inches. My original transom was 5 inches. How tall should this be? You do the math, that's 7.5 inches. But where did I go wrong? Can you pause here and figure out how that math doesn't work out? It was 5 inches. I raised it 2.5. I made this 7.5. Why am I off so much? That's right. Down here, that's no longer the original bottom of the boat. So had the bottom of the boat remained flat, my little transom modification, had I brought that tunnel up, it all would have worked. But bottom of the boat went down and transom came up, meaning that the outboard is now sitting too high. Oh man, this sucks. It bugs me. Like, not only that I screwed up, but now that I have to fix it, you know, if I could just snap my fingers and be like, well, I made a mistake, but this is going to set me back at least one day, just based on the fact that I've only got a couple hours every evening to work on this. I was looking forward to getting this outboard mounted. I want this to angle down, and based on the cuts I made before, 10 degrees. Well, that's kind of how it's going to look. Should be fine. This piece was actually a leftover from all of this, and it was exactly a 1/2 inch longer than it needed to be. So I guess, yeah, you do win some. Picture the boat right now as sitting on a gravel bar. That's the concrete. It's just flat in the concrete. But you'll notice that the outboard is not touching. That is the purpose of this tunnel, is to basically not have this hang under the boat. You can go up a full 3 inches for your tunnel if you want and just give this a little bit more room, but I went 2.5 inches, and this is sort of how it sits. This is sitting a little bit too low, in my opinion. Water comes off of this, it's going to hit this leading edge and sort of spray up everywhere. I'm below that line. So I'm going to take a tape measure there, and then we're going to come straight up from that. And here is where it sits on my boat. So this, I basically cut a shim to that exact height, and then I set it back down. I'm going to turn the engine and then trace exactly where, when this square edge turns, where it comes in. And I'll actually cut that out with a jigsaw, and that'll be where it sits for the first test drive. This allows the outboard to kind of turn through its arc, while still being as close as possible throughout that arc. Looks like somebody was using the back of the boat as target practice, but it should be waterproof-ish. Not worried about the top. I'm not going to sheet this just yet. I want to get this thing on the water first and see how she goes. But this will be kind of the first view of essentially the completed boat for now. This is my ability to actually adjust my trim. I thought that I could twist one of these and it would set like the low point to a certain spot. And that might be the case, but as far as I'm aware, I can't do that. I basically just have these 3 bolt holes. So right now this is a little bit too close. You can see if I turn the outboard, it just touches there, but also like with flex and stuff, you don't want it that close. So I will retrace this line and cut that a little bit bigger. But that is the lowest point of trim using this bolt, which is just awesome that it worked out that I'm actually that close. This was a big piece going across the top here, and with the flat hull it would work, but with the V it would end up hitting that. So I moved this onto the back here, just 4x4 fence post. I cut one side with the circular saw and then trimmed the other side to fit. Drilled a hole in here with a drill, and then came in the bottom side, just, well, can't really see it, but oh, there it is. Just a regular deck screw going up into there. Hopefully that'll work. Ran some new wiring, put some wire loom around everything, and I have some submersible LED trailer lights, which is always kind of nice to have functioning lights. So there they are. It'll look a lot better. Well, it'll look a heck of a lot better once there's a boat on there, trust me. Got a new boat winch which is pretty handy. It's a 2-speed unit. So I've currently got it set on the fast mode. So basically cranking this moves this a little quicker. I have to completely unscrew this and move it over here. So wherever it sits, it's going to be permanent. It's just, I'll see if this is strong enough to tow the boat up before I, stop carrying a wrench around that's that size. It's a heavy boat now. Holes for the bottom line up too, that's always nice. Get this thing bolted on here, and then once I take the weight off, after changing the weight on the trailer, I'm assuming it'll still be decent balance here, but I got to make sure it doesn't just tip up, at which point I'll have to pull it a little bit further forwards. This is all just tacked up. Well, it's not even tacked up, it's just sitting here temporarily. I've got this piece going across, but does that not look so cool? Like, just to have the back of the boat like sort of caged in like that. I think that would look amazing. I'd put a nice strong piece across here going across, and then I could tuck my battery in underneath, and it'd be so cool. She floats. I've just driven it to here, but already it accelerates way better with the way the jet outboard is set at the back. I think it was digging in like an anchor before. So my original upriver speed was 33 kilometers an hour on the GPS. So it's probably a 35 kilometer an hour boat. And I'm hoping for well over 40 today. That's about how deep it sits at the front in the water, with somebody standing in it. And since it's a jet, I don't think I'll have any trouble starting off from the docks here. Whoops. Zoom out mode. This has to be right in the right spot to start. Pretty good. We'll spin her right around here. And see how she goes. Yeah, doing good, doing good. I'm gonna stop, I'll wait. Oh, not too bad. Oh, she floats shallow, that's nice. I'm trimmed way up just to leave it idling. It doesn't seem to be sucking rocks or anything. Really impressed with the shallow water performance so far. Once I get some graphite epoxy in the bottom, it'll slide nicer and be a little more brave to maybe head up that. Well, what do we figure? I think on plane, we could do this. Problem is, if we try it, just for the heck of it, and we don't make it, then feet will be getting wet and muddy and very cold. What do you think, Joel? Do we...
I don't think you're gonna get through there.
Oh, he said he couldn't get through there, which means we're going for it. I'll bet you right there it is 2 inches deep, but what happens is you get the same thing as your car can technically float on the highway, hydroplaning, right? So it's that ground effect. So when it's really, really shallow, it actually allows you to run even shallower than you normally could. And I'll bet you we skim right through this.
Well, I guess we gotta try it now.
Well, I'll be the one getting my feet wet first, unless we're like totally stuck. Definitely an example of with the tunnel, yes. Without the tunnel, no. Because like we're talking, yeah, like 2 inches of water. And the only reason I'm trying this is because it's all mud and sand down here. So if it was gravel and there was 2 inches of water, then there'd be a little rock sitting here, which is actually like only half an inch under the surface. Whereas here, it's all pretty much even. So we'll get a bit of a run at it and we'll see if we can make it through here. What do you think, Joel? Are we far enough to get a run up? Just because I don't actually have boots, so like rubber boots, so I want to make this work. All right, get ready to brace yourself, Joel. So if we do hit the bottom, it'll be like hitting the brakes, so I just don't want them tumbling over the front. Trim down at the back. All right, we are ready. Steady. Hit it. Okay, I am not drunk. I just had so little water and steering that last corner I just couldn't make it. So we just skimmed the edge, but that was pretty great. Hit bottom and straight through. How about we go back? Well, let's see. We made it a little bit muddy, but we're floating here. So basically the shoe is just packed full of mud. Oh dear. Oh yeah. So that'll slow you down a little bit right there. Well, I'm super happy, but that last little thing we ran through, that was not 2 inches deep. That was like just water glazing the surface. So sucked in a bunch of like weeds and stuff. Okay, so I've confirmed there's nothing in the intake grates. Make sure we're in gear here. I've confirmed there's nothing in the intake grates, so I'm gonna carry on through and see if we can make that run one more time. See how we go. Make sure you brace yourself when we get close. So what do you think, Joel? Is the boat performing as planned?
Yeah, it's good. It goes through shallow water for sure.
Yep. Oh, this is going to be great once I get her all finished up.